Hello all, I'm finally deciding to put some stuff up on my channel, which has been a long time coming. I thought I'd just start with something simple. So what I thought I'd do today is just run through some nice ways to play scales or scale passages in ways that are intuitive, rhythmic, and you can put into context very easily. So a lot of people find scale practice not particularly inspiring, I think. And I think the reason that people find it uninspiring to some degree is because it's not often practiced in a context. So it doesn't necessarily sound very melodic, and there's ways to get around that. But if we start with a simple scale like A major here at the 5th fret, first thing I like to do is play it just alternate picked. So I've got a downstroke on my downbeat and an upstroke just off the beat. So downstroke on the beat, upstrokes off the beat, like so. Now that does involve a little bit of what you might call cross picking, or where you've got to pick down in one direction, you know, down away from the string that you're about to play, like here when you come back down from the top, we play this B on the G string. You're playing down away from the D string, and then you have to play the A up. But with a little bit of practice, you can kind of get used to that, and I sort of get around that by playing sort of a kind of circular motion with my right hand, kind of moving from the wrist a little bit. And for the most part, my downstrokes go into the string, my upstrokes go out. So I'm exaggerating here and making mistakes, but you get the idea. Now that scale on its own is one thing, but it doesn't necessarily give you any phrases. So one way to get nice phrases, especially in, say, a folk music kind of style, instrumental sort of folk from the British Isles, or, you know, country old time bluegrass stuff, is to play them in thirds. So what that means is you take one note in your scale, you start from the root, and then you play the note that's a third away. So that, for those that don't know what a third is, that's what we call an interval between two notes, and you count the number of notes, including the outside ones that you're playing. So 1, 2, 3, so between the first and the third of the scale, that's what we call a third. So you play the tonic, the root note here of your scale, and then the third note, and that's playing it in thirds. Also, if you play the next one up, you just go one up again, and that would still be a third. So from the second of the scale to the fourth, that's still 3 notes, a third. So we'll go. And we can go back down. And you might need to use some slightly different fingerings to make this intuitive. And I can show you what I did there in just a second. So on the way up, nice and straightforward, just using the fingers that you would normally, except for here, when you play this D on the G string, what I did on the way up was I barred my little finger across, and that worked just fine. So at speed that'll probably work as well. And that was fine. But on the way down, going from there to there, I lean my third finger across. So I'd go. And then I'm back to normal. And that's another way of practicing your scale, so in thirds. again with this alternate feel, because if you're playing down, up all the time, it keeps the rhythm in your right hand, and before long you don't really have to think about what you're doing with your right hand at all. So this is one of those techniques that forms a lot of the basis for how I play, because it means that you can switch nicely between rhythm and lead without thinking too much about what your right hand is doing. Now if you get bored with thirds, you can also play a little melodic sequence. So in this case I'm playing the first, then the second, then the third note of the scale, and then back to the tonic. And then I'll do exactly the same thing but move everything up, so then I play second, third, fourth, and then back to the second. So in this case I'll play A, B, C sharp, A, B, C sharp, D, B, and so on. C sharp, D, E, C sharp. And it'll sound like this. And on the way back down you can actually do the same thing but backwards. So you'd go A, G sharp, F sharp, A, and then G sharp, F sharp, E, G sharp, and so on. And if you practice up, you'll get cleaner than me. So yeah, we've got those three patterns. One of them is just your basic 2-octave scale. Then we've got thirds. Sequence. So the key elements of this: rhythmic right hand. You can be tapping your foot if you want, nodding your head. However you feel the rhythm is great. As long as you've got that rhythm in your right hand, feeling that rhythm in your body, that suddenly means that what you're practicing becomes intuitive rather than something that you have to think about while you're doing it. Anyway, you've got some options for how to play your scales. If you'd like some more, maybe see if you can find a way of transposing your own patterns. So instead of playing, you could play like, and then go. Or something like that. Or. But whatever it is that you choose to play, if you play that in sequence, you'll get full command of your scale with that pattern. It's nice and straightforward because you don't have to change the pattern, you don't have to think about the notes too much. And once you can see, hear and feel that scale under your hands, it will enable you to come up with patterns like that and transpose them all over the fretboard as well, because the scale shapes are the same as you move them up and down. So doing that in B would be just fine, you know. One of the beauties of the guitar is that you can transpose basically everything really easily. So have a go, see how you get on. Main elements: that right hand, the rhythm, alternate picking, and just take it as slowly as you need to play with a nice quiet hand. You don't want to be playing like with your fingers all over the place too much. just keep them nice and close to the fretboard, make a good sound, choose a speed that's comfortable for you, and then from there, whack a metronome on, speed it up. Feel free to play with a metronome to begin with as well. If you find a good speed and you can keep to the tempo, something that's comfortable, then there's no harm in doing that, because you can chart your progress really easily, keep in time really well, and develop a really natural sense of tempo and groove. Anyway, that's probably about enough for now. Enjoy your playing.